Perez. Walter makes a run ahead of him. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp! That's magnificent! The move, and then this, which left Dabby's ass totally stranded.
Hello, and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. No, you are not deceiving. Your eyes are not deceiving you, and no, your ears will not deceive you when you're listening to this. It is myself, Karl, and the person who I've not podcast with in over a year, I think. It must be over a year. It's got to be. It's only Ellis Mel.
Hello.
Bloody hell, Ellis.
Yeah, it's been a while. There's a lot going on, but hopefully I'll be able to put a bit more in the coming season, unlike last season where I think I may have made 2 shows, maybe.
I mean, at least you didn't make commitments to say that you'd make every show like Chris and then not make half of them. Just put it out there.
There is that. How you been, guy? You been all right?
Yeah, do you know what? Not been too bad, you know. Like, do you know what? You and I have like similar working patterns, like days, nights. I'm about to start my set of nights on Friday, 7 nights in a row. Not looking forward to it, but you know, it is what it is. I know people, I am not striking London Underground, maybe, but people like me, we're not striking. No.
Hero.
I know, like I think I am. I mean, my job is almost as important as yours, and it's like you know, for what you do, I don't envy you at all. Like, you probably one of the hardest working people that I know, especially through like the whole COVID thing and what you do now. So my hat goes off to you. I mean, still,
what's going on? Ellis. Are you feeling okay?
No. Hashtag fuck Ellis all the time, like forever, for life. But you know, like definitely. Ellis, Arsenal have signed some players, and not just one, not just 2, but 3 really good players. I don't know where we should start. Like, I guess we could start with just talking about the signings as a whole. I mean, when we first started having rumors about even Kai Havertz, I'm not going to lie to you, I think I wasn't best pleased, just because I based it on kind of what he did for Chelsea for the last 3 years. And in 3 years for Chelsea, I think he scored something like 15 goals in total. And for me, I just don't think that was good enough. So I wasn't overly excited, but I guess I've started to warm to it a little bit, just because of, you know, just imagining where he's going to play. You know, one would think that he's going to play in midfield, that, you know, there's talk of if he's going to play the left 8, the quote-unquote Granit Xhaka role. What do you think about the signing? Like, was you excited from the get-go, or was you warming up to it, or are you still like, don't like the signing?
I think I was much like yourself, Karl. I wouldn't say a meltdown, but I sort of went into a panic when I saw the numbers quoted and we were being linked with him. And I thought of all the sort of people that I'd try and get from that sort of Chelsea team, he probably wouldn't have been the first name that would have come to mind. And I think I must have put it in one of our WhatsApp chats to saying, can someone just please make this make sense? And Chris directed me to Drew. What's Drew? I don't know what Drew's Twitter at is now. I'll find it and I'll say it. But you'll know Drew. He's been on this podcast before. He's been on Tom Canton's podcast. He's very well known on sort of Twitter, and he sort of specialises, or he watches a lot of German football, so he knows Kai Havertz very well. And he did a thread. He also linked an article that he wrote, a blog that he'd done, and it put my mind at ease. I'm not sure where he's going to play for us. I think the rumours are, and I think they're trying to sort of groom him into that sort of left 8 role to take over where Xhaka's left off. And I'm not going to lie, I've got some concerns defensively about Kai Havertz in that position. But in terms of attacking output, if we look at the positions that Granit Xhaka was taking up last season, and the fact that he was scoring more goals, he was relieved more of that sort of defensive responsibilities, and had license to sort of run forward. And you'd find him sort of in these far late sort of runs into the box, being sometimes the furthest player forward, linking up with Jesus and Martinelli on that sort of left channel. And I think purely from an attacking sense, I think Kai Havertz is probably an upgrade on Granit Xhaka in that point of view. When it comes to defensive work, I'm yet to really see it. I think at Chelsea he was probably deployed in a role that, from people who know football better than me, say was probably not his best role, sort of like a centre forward. He's been however many forwards that have played at Chelsea and haven't been successful since probably Diego Costa. And I think he's been judged on that harshly, and I think I've probably judged him harshly. The fact that he comes from Chelsea doesn't help. Our track record of Chelsea players that we've signed in the past hasn't been amazing. At best, they've been average, and at worst, they've been, well, Willian. But there we go. But I think it's a change. He's a good player. He's a player that's won them a Champions League. Can't forget that. And he's also young, so his ceiling is a lot higher. The previous players we bought from Chelsea, even Jorginho in the January transfer window, have been sort of towards the end of their playing career, whereas Kai Havertz is now coming into sort of his peak years, and he's leaving a disjointed, jam-packed squad of players that didn't really have any direction. I listened to Irish Videos podcast after hearing the Gooner, another podcast was talking about it, and they interviewed Lampard, and he was saying when he took over the job there, he could just look at the players' eyes and could see they're all on the beach. So he's come from that sort of fuck show that is Chelsea, and he's come to a much more cohesive unit and team. And the one thing that I've sort of got from, I don't know about you, Karl, but the three announcers we've had, or the last two, Declan Rice and Timber, I've been watching sort of the interviews. I've been watching them sort of being there, shown around Colney for their first day, and you definitely get a sense of I don't know about Chelsea, but I doubt he sort of had that at Chelsea. And here he's going to be, I think, nurtured. He's going to be under a great coach, and he's going to be in a great squad with some good players. And I'll have to give them time to sort of warm to this transfer more than I have the other two that we're probably going to talk about. But I'm hopeful. The ceiling's definitely high, and I think his potential is a lot greater than what previous Chelsea fans have done. What about yourself? What do you think in terms of his ceiling and how well he can perform, where you see him playing? What do you think?
I mean, once he's got a coach like Arteta, who I hear what you're saying about the defensive frailty that he had at Chelsea, but I don't think Arteta will let him get away with not having the defensive mind and also the attacking mind. I think if you come to this Arsenal squad, you have to work hard. Arteta demands it. And I think to myself that if Arteta didn't feel that he could do both sides, depending on where he plays, he wouldn't have signed him. You know, there's got to be something in him that he sees. And yeah, there are going to be times where you are going to have to run back. You're not going to, I mean, you look at Martinelli and Saka, two of the most attacking players, and also you think of Gabriel Jesus. Sometimes Gabriel Jesus is playing defensive midfielder. That just shows, that just maybe his character, but that just shows how much they get back. You see the same thing with Saka. Sometimes he's playing in a right back position. You see the same with Martinelli, tracking back wingers. And it springs to the I think the Spurs game when we beat them at home. And I remember when Emerson Rowe got sent off, it was because Martinelli was tracking back, got the ball back, and then Emerson Rowe fouled him. So, you know, it shows the commitment that the players have. And like I said, I don't think Arteta's going to allow him not to track back. So, like keywords, I think we just got to sit back and wait. You know, there could be, you know, it could turn out to be an absolutely brilliant signing. It could turn out not to be a good, not so good signing. So I think it's one of them ones where we're hopeful, and like everyone is, like we want things to happen, but at the same time, I think we just got to wait. Like we wait in hope, and hopefully he can come in whatever position he plays, whether it be midfield, whether it be attacking midfield, whether it be up front, wherever Arteta decides to deploy him. That would be a good look. I think some of the games that will coming up next, I think it'll be a good indication of where he's going to play and sort of the team that Arteta sees. Jurrien Timber, who's come in from Ajax for I think about £40 million. Basically a centre back and also play right back. I think a little bit left back and a little bit defensive midfield, but predominantly he's a centre back who can also play right back. What do you think of him, Ellis? He done well in Ajax last season, and I think I read through some of the Ajax Twitter feeds. I just want to see what get the feeling of what they were losing, and I would say 90% of the Ajax Twitter feed was people missing him, saying, I can't believe we sold him, I can't believe he's going. Like, so, you know, when the fans don't want to sell you, that's a good indication. Obviously, unless you watch the Eredivisie, you probably go on YouTube and see the highlights, and I'm sure you've done that as well as I have. What do you think of his signing, and do you feel that he has a starting place at Arsenal, or do you think he's going to have to come off the bench?
They're good questions. Again, like you alluded to, I don't watch much Eredivisie. I saw a bit of Ajax in their good Champions League run a few seasons ago, but from memory, I don't think he particularly stood out then, if he was even in the team then. I can't remember. So I haven't really seen much of him, but from what I've seen, what I've listened to on other pods, highlight reels I've seen on YouTube, I think he is a very Mikel Arteta signing. He's a versatile player who can play in more than one position and play well in more than one position. And he's another defender who's comfortable with the ball at his feet. In terms of whether he's going to come in straight away and be a starter, I don't know. I find it difficult to see him taking a place over Ben White, who's had such a good season, over Saliba, Gabriel, and certainly not Zinchenko. But I think what we've got there is tremendous cover. But if you look at the sort of amount of games that Man City played last season, how many games their defenders played, how many times, if anyone plays FPL, if you pick a Man City defender, it's almost a game of Russian roulette where they actually get a full 90 minutes because they can just swap them out with another defender. And I think, and a lot of people probably would agree and pinpoint the moment our season took that turn for the worse was the Saliba injury. And to bring in someone like Holding, who just doesn't match what Saliba does in the team. I'm not as critical as everyone can be or has been of Rob Holding, but he certainly doesn't suit what this Arsenal team wants to do with its defenders, whereas Jurrien Timber does. And if Saliba is injured or Saliba needs to be rested, he can certainly play that position. And if Ben White needs to be rested, is injured, he can play that position. So he covers two roles or two positions, but he's also comfortable enough on the ball to sort of step into midfield. If you've watched any of his highlight reels, you'll see him carry the ball forward. I saw someone that Mikel actually mentioned that he doesn't really like his defenders to carry the ball forward, but it's certainly a skill that will be good. And if you're going to start thinking about potentially inverting your right side as well as your left side, or switching players out and just not being as sort of predictable, like towards the end of the season, it's predictable that Zinchenko is going to revert. Perhaps maybe one game you don't start Zinchenko, you start Tierney, you have a more solid left back that isn't going to bomb forward, isn't going to invert into midfield, and you have Jurrien Timber on the right back, and he's the one inverting in it. It gives the opposition different things to think about. It makes us more versatile, makes us more flexible, and it just makes our squad depth, which is going to be so important next season when we're playing Champions League football, just brings that squad depth up a level. Because Rob Holding, again, like I said, I do like the player. I'm grateful for what he's done for Arsenal, but he is a big drop off from our original starting sort of back four. What about yourself, Karl? How are you feeling about it? Do you think he's going straight in, or do you think it's a more of a sort of rotation option?
I think definitely rotation option. The starting back four from last season deserves to start this season. Unless Arteta sees something in training, I don't feel any of them deserve to lose their place. I'll be very honest with you, I was really worried about Saliba because as you know, working in the medical field, Ellis, when you get a back injury, that is horrible. Like, it really is, and it could go at any time. And there's no quote unquote cure for a back injury. It's rest, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of rest, ice it, and especially some of the movement that as a footballer has to do. I honestly think that there will be times when Saliba will be rested. Like, you're not going to see Saliba starting every single game this season, because I honestly feel that they're going to have to be really, really careful with his back injury. And if he feels it even a little bit, that's it. He comes out, takes a rest. And I think you're right what you're saying. As much as we love Rob Holding, the drop off from Saliba as a Holding was massive. It was huge. And I'm not saying he's the reason why we lost the league, but did it contribute? 100%. Of course it did. And I think that when you've got someone like Timber who can come in and the drop off won't be that much, then obviously you're hoping, of course, that whatever he comes in or whoever comes in, you're hoping that the drop off in any part of the team is not that bad. But I think, the way that Arteta does like people to play. I know you said he doesn't like people to come out with the ball, but he likes people to have control of the ball. And I think where Rob Holding doesn't, he's an old school defender, get the ball, hoof it up. He's not good with his feet, unfortunately. That's just not his game. So, and that changed, obviously, Arsenal's dynamics and the way that we play. And, it hurt last season, seeing like him struggle a little bit, because we was only really used to him coming on Europa League games or last 5 minutes, sits in the middle, headers it out. That's it. That was his game. So yeah, he kind of struggled. But Timber, hopefully, will come in. He'll do a job, and I think Arteta's got to kind of heavily rotate this season. And I say that because we're not talking about Europa League. We're talking about the Champions League now, and no matter who we get, whether we get a quote unquote easy draw or a hard draw, Arteta knows that he can't play the same team every single game like he did last season. I mean, we saw the drop off in Saka towards the end of last season. He was just tired. He was absolutely tired. And, you saw Thomas Partey as well. The fact that, he dropped off as well. Everyone just kind of had a little drop off. And I think that's because of fatigue. We just didn't rotate enough. And hopefully this season we can do that a bit more, because I will talk about our marquee signing. We finally got our man, 105 Great British pounds for Declan Rice. This was probably the longest saga ever. I mean, how long did it take to sign him? And I get it. When you're spending 105 million pounds on a player, you want to cross those T's and dot those I's and make sure that everything is bang on A-OK. And I think we kind of fucked West Ham about as well, because they fucked us about with the price. So we was kind of like, we're not in no rush. I think the fact that we knew we was the only club in for him, he wanted us, we wanted him, and that was it. And I think that, I'm sure West Ham lost out on some of their signings because we never released some of the money, because I think they were being dicks about it as well, like talking about they want an upfront fee early, and I don't think that's how football transfers work. You can tell that this is West Ham's one and only marquee signing, and they will never have this again, and they didn't know how to act. So because they didn't know how to act, this is why they wanted the deal structured in the way that they wanted it, and it just seems a bit weird. But we finally got our man. What do you think about the signing? Are you happy with the signing and the price? I think the price is quite important. He doesn't set the price, but that's him. And obviously, he's always going to be known as the £100 million man. That's no matter what he does, whether it be good or bad. If he does something good, people say, well, he's 100 million. He should be good. If he does something bad, it'll be he's worth 100 million. He shouldn't be doing that. So what do you think about the price? And do you think he comes straight into the team as well?
100% he comes straight into the team. I don't think you spend that amount of money and he's not a guaranteed starter. I think he will most probably take the Partey role. And it looks like, again, we'll see in these upcoming USA Tour fixtures what our midfield three is going to be. But I imagine it's probably going to be Declan and the single pivot role with Odegaard and Havertz either side, a bit more advanced. But yeah, I think from the moment we missed out on Modric in January, it started leaking into the press, didn't it? That we were after Declan Rice. He was our main target. We're going to go for him when the summer window opened. And as soon as it did open, there was information going around. I don't think, from memory, I can remember a transfer that was covered so much, every minute detail, whether it be what the prices were breaking down to, how many, the structure of the payments were, what the add-ons were, someone else was going in for it, how the West Ham laughed at a bid, all this information, whether that was purely a sort of West Ham ploy to leak all that information to try and get us to get to that 100 million barrier that they set for him, I don't know. But yeah, it was a long overdue, and even I don't know how many days after it was announced that he'd actually, the clubs had agreed, they actually took for him to have his medical and have the official announcement on Saturday, and it just felt like an age. But what a signing in terms of the price. I don't want to put a negative spin on it. I really don't, because signing probably England's future captain once Harry Kane retires eventually. Potentially our future captain as well. Obviously, I know we've got Odegaard, but he's definitely going to be, from what I've seen of him, is going to be part of that leadership group, and a player that is just completely dominated his position in the league at West Ham as well. It's exciting. It's really exciting. It feels like a proper momentum signing, like a momentum shift, going from. We've never done anything like this. I know we spent money recently. Well, not that long ago, we spent 65 million approx on Havertz a few weeks ago, and obviously the Pepe signing. So we have in recent years started to spend money, but of this magnitude, an English player as well, like it's just not something I'd ever envisaged Arsenal would do. But the price tag does worry me. If you look at the sort of the top 10 players in the Premier League that have gone for the most money, so looking at more recently with Jack Grealish, a lot of them haven't really been successful or been a bit touch and go. Even Grealish, for a while, he had that price tag hanging over his head, and people were saying he wasn't really living to those heights. But I think going back on the list you're looking at, I think Lukaku appears on there twice. Once when he was bought by Man United, and once when he was bought by Chelsea. And for argument's sake, he sort of flopped there as well. You've got Pogba, who didn't have the greatest career at Man United after doing so well at Juventus before they brought him back. Who else was there?
You've got Enzo to Chelsea, who the jury's still out at the moment. He's not lit up the stage.
He's not been there long enough. I'm trying to think, is Harry Maguire also up there?
80 million.
He must be in the top 10. So another United player who's sort of flopped there. So yeah, it is a lot of money to put in. I don't think though that is something that would get to Declan Rice as much. He seems like a strong character. I can't. When you look at how he sort of holds himself and how he communicated in all the sort of backstage sort of videos of him, and how he seems to be communicating in training already with the guys, he seems like a very strong character. So I'm not sure that will affect him. I'm more worried about the expectations that the fans will have, and not necessarily the fans, but the media. So you look at, if we have a bit of a rocky start to the season, it's going to be all over the press, isn't it? 105 million Declan Rice doesn't study the ship, or yada yada yada, or whatever. There will be pressure on him, but I hope it doesn't get to him. It does make me worry, but it's, again, I think it was the Arsenal vision I heard. It's not a position you can really attribute too many stats to it. What stats in terms of like physical things like goals? Like if you're a forward, you're going to be judged on the goals you score. If you're an attacking midfielder, you're going to be judged on the assists and the goals you score. If you're a goalkeeper, it's going to be clean sheets and saves. And if you throw one in the net, look at David De Gea. He got the Golden Glove this season, but he was at fault for a lot of goals, and people don't remember the clean sheets. They remember those goals that slipped through his G-string fingers and into the back of the net. Whereas a central defensive midfielder, there isn't, unless he's going to make a complete how it leads to a goal, there's not really anything sort of negative you can attribute to that. The things the things he does so well, sort of winning possession back, breaking up attacks, it's not something that directly stands up on a piece of paper like a goal does, or like a stat that flashes up on the screen. So potentially that might help him. But it is going back to the positive side of things. It is a statement signing. Arsenal mean business. We spent a lot of money. We challenged probably a bit earlier than we fought for a title and did falter away, and we strengthened. And in terms of the position he's going to play, and like you asked earlier, is he going to be a starter? Yeah, he will be a starter. I think he's going to take over Partey's place. And in terms of his fitness levels compared to Partey, how many games did Partey miss this season and the season before that? Whereas Declan Rice, touch wood, injury records are quite good and doesn't miss many games. So whether you think he's at Partey's level or not, you're getting him for a lot more minutes, a lot more games than you're probably going to get Partey for this season. And obviously, we send Xhaka leave. Partey is similar age. It's time we start phasing them out and bringing in a younger, more youthful sort of midfield, which looks like we're doing. But what was your initial reaction? I say initial reaction. It's been coming for weeks and months, hasn't it? But in terms of when we actually signed him, was it a relief? Was it over? Like, how did you feel?
Do you know what? I don't know why. Because it dragged out a little bit, it kind of lost a little bit of not the shine. I mean, don't get it wrong. I'm very happy that we signed him, and I'm extremely happy that he didn't get the plain old video that Timber and Kai Havertz got, because when you spend £100 million on the player, you want the whole razzmatazz. And I'm happy that they got a whole video for him, because it's something that I felt like needed something bigger. I'm extremely happy. I'm happy that we got our man finally. Do you know what it is? You hit the nail on the head. Like there's no kind of attribute you can attribute to a defensive, quote unquote, defensive midfielder, whether we're going to call it box to box, whatever position he plays. So you're right, and the price tag will hang over him, because anytime you spend £100 million on a player, it's always going to. But I think he will be protected by Arteta. I think anytime something happens, you will definitely see Arteta jump to his aid, and I think he's going to fit into the squad really well, because he knows so many people. I mean, he's got Saka that he's known for ages from the England setup, and Ketia that he's known from his Chelsea days, Aaron Ramsdale. So he's going to integrate into the squad, and you can like by the videos that Arsenal release, the squad is like, it's almost like a family. Like there's no outsiders. I mean, you got people. I mean, I saw one of the videos where they were on the plane when they were traveling to America, and Onene, and I was like, oh, flipping hell, completely forgot about Onene, and he was sitting around with all the guys, like chatting, and it just seems like, someone who hasn't been away for ages, like just comes slot straight back in. So yeah, I don't really see that pressure getting to him. And you're right, when someone stands out at West Ham, you look at them and you think to yourself, oh, like he's that good, is at West Ham. When he comes to Arsenal, he's going to be playing with better players. He's going to probably play he's going to be more demanding, because Arteta is not going to want what David Moyes wants. No disrespect to David Moyes, but he's going to need to do more at Arsenal than he did at West Ham, and he might even find his job a little bit easier, respectfully, because whereas that he was at West Ham, he had to defend. He had to really, really defend. And I think at Arsenal, he's going to have to do exactly the same job, but it'll be much easier because people around him will be better. So I'm kind of happy with him. I think you're right. We just need to, once we see these three games in America, against the All-Stars, Man United and Barcelona, you'll see, what kind of shape that we're going to play. Then obviously when we come back, we've got the Emirates Cup game and also the Charity Shield game against City. So I think that will be very, very good. And one thing I really, really like is that nobody knows what we're going to do. Everyone's guessing. I mean, yeah, you could probably name the front three of Saka, Martinelli and Jesus. That's for sure. Maybe you could name the back four of the teams that played last season, but the midfield, I can change it up. And the fact of the matter is that we can change up our midfield, which is really, really good. Talking about players coming in, there's one more player or one position I want to talk about coming in. That's the right-hand side. Now, I know we've got Nelson, and Nelson at the moment is out for 2 weeks with a toe injury. I think the over-reliance on Saka really, really, really didn't help us last season. And I don't know if you've seen today, we've been linked to Kudus from Ajax.
Mm-hmm.
So what if we get it over the line? What do you think of that? Do you think of that, say, a sign obviously that's going to help us, because Saka definitely is going to need a rest next season. He can't play every Premier League game for 90 minutes and then play every Champions League game.
Yeah, it's certainly a position we need cover for, like you're saying, like you highlight. We're going to be playing a high level of competition and ideally be in the cups for a bit longer than what we were last season. And we can't keep playing it. I think Nelson is a good enough cover sort of Europa. Well, he's not in the Europa League now, are we? But when we were in the Europa League, he's good enough cover for Saka in terms of early stages of FA Cup and the League Cup. He is. Champions League, though, I'm yet to be sort of impressed enough by Nelson to think that he's ever going to be cover for him in the Champions League, unless it's a relatively easy group stage game. So he's going to have to cover Saka. I don't know much about this guy from Ajax. Like I said, I saw it today. I also saw a rumour, how true it is, of us being in for João Felix again. Never really slowing our interest. There's another player who can play across the front three that would offer cover for not only Saka but obviously Jesus and Martinelli if needs be. I think if that is going to happen, in whoever it be that we pick to be right wing cover or another forward to cover the right wing, I think we're probably going to have to sell before we buy. There's a lot of money. It's been spent, hasn't it?
That's what I wanted to come on to very, very neatly. Our squad is kind of looking at Chelsea at the moment. Is very, very bloated.
Cedric was sat on the floor in that Declan Rice. He hasn't got a chair to sit on, poor guy.
It's. I mean, at the moment on our books, I think we've got like 5 goalkeepers: Ramsdale, Runarsson, Turner,
Hein,
Okonkwo, and Hein. Yeah, 5 goalkeepers. Like, so we've got so many players on our books, and there has to be some outs, and there's been rumors and talk about people who go in, and we haven't even seen Pepe. And that's something I want to talk to. Actually, let's talk about Pepe now. Like, Pepe has been nowhere to be seen. He's definitely not in the tour to America. He didn't go to Germany. He's been in no training videos. There's been zero talk of him at all. Like, I don't even know he's still at the club, which would tend to indicate that maybe he's not going to be part of the squad. Well, yeah, more than likely not going to be part of the squad. What do you think about that? Because, like I said, he's literally been frozen out. Well, I don't want to say frozen out, but there's been no talk of him at all, and he's not even been anywhere near the Arsenal first team. So what do we do with a problem like Pepe? Do we cancel his contract? Do we sell him for any nominal fee that we can? Because clearly Arteta does not want him at all. Hasn't got time. Not because he hasn't got time for him, but he's not in his plans whatsoever. So what do we do?
It's a shame that the Saudi Arabian club haven't come in for Pepe. It's funny how they seem to only buy players from teams they have a potential vested interest in, isn't it? But yeah, I think, and I did some polls sort of on Twitter earlier today, sort of gauging what people's opinions on transfers under Mikel Arteta and how well they've worked. Obviously, Pepe wasn't a player that's coming into him. He come into in the Unai Emery reign. And I think the only sort of negative thing you could sort of say towards Edu and Arteta recently is our selling. In terms of recruitment, and we'll go over those polls a bit later in the pod. In terms of our recruitment, which has been relatively sound, our ability to sell players has been poor. And again, you can reverse that. We had a Europa League squad with players on Champions League wages, so it's really difficult to sell underperforming stars who are on a lot of money. And your Aubameyangs, your Ozils, yada yada yada. And Pepe sort of falls in that category. He is not performing well, and he's on quite a high wage that not many people are going to want to match for what his output has been in the last couple of seasons. In his Arsenal career, when he was playing, his goals and assists, his contributions weren't awful. Not much is said about Sancho, but he's outperformed more than Pepe's performed well enough for Arsenal than he has for United. But it's difficult. I think he's probably going to be one of those players like Aubameyang, like Ozil, who will terminate their contract by mutual consent, and he'll move on probably back to Ligue 1, where he belongs, where his talent probably is. But yeah, it's bad. I do feel a bit sorry for him, but he's clearly not a Mikel Arteta type of player. And unfortunately, if he can't get himself to the levels that Mikel Arteta wants, then he needs to go. And if we can't find a seller for him, then it is going to unfortunately mean that he'll probably just leave on a free or have his contract terminated. What's your feelings on him?
I think the fact that he's not anywhere to be seen would indicate that he's going to leave. That's 100%. It's just how he leaves. I think you're right. I'm not too sure what went wrong. Something did, and I'm not too sure what. Whether it's a confidence thing, whether, I mean, the league, the season before he came to Arsenal, he was tearing up trees in France. You know, he done so well. He's like the highest goal scorer. Like he just done everything. But I just, he came over here, and whether he was used correctly, whether his lifestyle wasn't the same, whether it's a language barrier, I have no idea. But he came over here, and it wasn't the Pepe that you saw in France. And again, he doesn't set his price tag. It's not his fault. It's not up to him. I mean, the stats, anyone's watching on YouTube can see it. In 2018 to 2019, he scored 42 goals. Like, that's ridiculous. 42 goals, 23 assists. That's phenomenal. Like, that is phenomenal numbers. And he come to England and he just didn't do it. It's just, and something went wrong. Whatever it is, something went wrong. And, you know, he came over, he played for Unai Emery, and he tried his best, didn't work. Arteta gave him a chance. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. So, you know, he went on loan in France as well this season, or last season, or whatever you want to call it now. That's a good. When is the crossover for this and last season? Like, are we now calling it this season now, or is it still last season? Like, I genuinely have no idea.
I'm on mute. Last season? Technically, it's finished now, isn't it? But no, we haven't started the new season.
Yeah, it's called last season.
Last season,
well,
because we're now
last season he went on loan. True. Yeah, he's on loan last season. Didn't tear up trees in France in the slightest. So, what do we do? Like, what is it that we do with him? I think the problem is, like you said, he's on such a high wage. I don't know who's going to take him. A Saudi, it's weird that no Saudi club, like you said, has come in for him, hasn't really said, "Oh yeah, we'll take him," and I've got a feeling we're going to end up cancelling his wage, just to get him off the books. I think that's the key. Like Danny is put on the screen here, he's on £140,000 a week, and again, that's our fault because we have given that to him. So that's nothing to do with him. And if he doesn't want to terminate his contract, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, if someone says, I'm going to pay you 140 grand for the next 5 years, and then they decide they don't want to, oh, can you terminate your contract for free? Why should he? Like, there's no reason why he should, none at all. So when things like that happen, I don't blame him at all. But I think what you got to look at now is, where does he go? What do you do with him? If he's not even training with the first team, he's nowhere to be seen. Clearly, he must be training alone somewhere with a view to maybe his agent saying, you know what, let's just find another club somewhere. And I think that's what's going to end up happening. But it's sad. Like, you wanted it to work out. But it is what it is. Do you see Rob Holding staying? And I say that because right now, when you've got someone like Timber, does Rob Holding is Rob Holding now our fourth choice centre back? Like, do you think it's time for him and Arsenal to part their ways and Rob Holding to go to maybe a lower level Premier League club to, get regular game time?
I mean, he could potentially be our fifth choice centre back because Tomiyasu can play centre back. Ben White can play centre back as well. You got Kieran, you got obviously Timber coming in. So there's a lot of players there that, in terms of, like, we're talking about that dropper from quality, who are a lot better on the ball than Rob Holding is. I think if I was him, no matter how much he likes Arsenal and no matter how much he might like the lifestyle at Arsenal, I think he would probably be thinking about a move. I think he knows he hasn't got much game time. Like I've just mentioned, all of those players are potentially ahead of him in terms of a centre-back starting position. I think at best he might... I don't even know. I don't know if he'll make the bench with the players we got. We obviously had the... Who was it that bid 2.5 million recently?
Fenerbahce?
Yeah, I think so. Which I think is worth more than that. I think he's...
Oh, yeah.
He's worth a good 5 million from somewhere out of England. And if an English club come in for him, then I'd be inclined to try and get up to 10. But we'll see. I think he could do a job in the Premier League for a mid to low table team that play sort of defensive style football and sit back a bit more. I think he'd fit in quite well there. He's been a great servant to Arsenal. He's just unfortunately not at the level that we are at now. I think we went from challenge for the title, and the next step up is to do that more sustainable and hopefully win a title. And I don't think he's at that level to be in a title winning team. Personally, I don't. In terms of the rest of the top four, or potential top four, big six, whatever you want to call it, the guys going for top four, I don't think he really gets in anyone's team, really, which is sounds harsh, but it's probably true. He's just not what we need right now, and I think that is obvious from the players we brought in over the windows that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I think if everybody's fit, I don't think he makes the bench because I don't think there's space for him on that bench. So it'd be very interesting to see, how many times he actually does get on the bench if and when everyone's fit. At the start of the transfer window, there's a lot of talk about Kieran Tierney leaving, and that talk's kind of gone really, really quiet now. Do you think that he stays?
If you'd asked me a month ago, a week ago, I'd say he's definitely going, and I would have said he would be off to Newcastle. That seemed to be the consensus on Twitter and in social media, but that has completely cooled off, really, at the moment. Again, he's a very competent backup to Zinchenko, but I wouldn't label him in the same bracket as Rob Holding in terms of drop-off in quality from our centre-backs that he provides. But in terms of the left-back position, I think he's a very good left-back. And like I've just mentioned, he's been linked to a Premier League team that is in the Champions League this season. So he's clearly of that quality. I just don't think he sort of suits the structure that we've got at the moment. And whether that be the case that we didn't really have anyone that could do the Zinchenko role on the other flank, which made it difficult, and Tierney can't do that role. I think that's obvious for many people to see. He's more of a run down the wing, put in a cross, sort of bomb up and down, not in inverting, not passing, spraying balls. That's not his strengths. It never will be. So potentially with Timber doing something similar on the other flank, we could potentially keep him and he can just do what he's best at. I don't know. I think, again, going back to the selling, in terms of assets that we could make money on, or who's more of a sellable asset, I think Tierney is probably one of them. And if a decent enough offer comes in for him this summer, I think he probably will go. There just doesn't seem to be much news of that at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I'd be happy to keep him. I genuinely would. I think when you talk about the Zinchenko role, I don't think that's his game. I think that obviously, Arteta has come in and wanting to change the way things are played, and rightly so. That's his team; he can do it. But I don't think you find a backup left back for the price that I've lost Ellis. Hopefully he comes back soon. But I don't think that you find another left back with the same quality as Kieran Tierney. I just don't see it. I think the amount of money you're going to have to spend as well on buying another player, you're just not going to do it. And I think there are other people in the squad or other places in the squad who we could utilize the money for. Sorry, Ellis, I know you just dropped up there. I was saying, I just don't feel like the money that we set him for, we'd be able to get a competent left back for that price. I think you'd end up paying a little bit more. So I'd be happy to keep him. Like, genuinely, I'd be really happy to keep him. And because he's not a bad player, he just doesn't fit the role that Arteta wants him to play. He's a decent player and he does his job. He just sadly doesn't. The things that Arteta wants him to do, as in drop into midfield, that's not his game. Never has been, never will be. And to try now and change your game when you've been playing one way all your life is really, really hard. So I don't know. But talking about another left back, Nuno Tavares, what do you do, I guess, with him? My opinion, I think he's got to be sold. I just don't think he's good enough. He went to Ligue 1, didn't really tear up trees there. Sadly, I just don't. Sometimes it just doesn't work out for players. And I know people say he's young. You know, he's been away with the Portuguese under-21 championship in the Euros. He was there, but sometimes you can hold on to a player for too long, hoping that they will become good, and I just don't know if he will. So what do you think about either sell him, let him go on loan, or keep him in the squad?
I'd say sell if we can get an amount for him, which again will be difficult. I mean, his loan at Marseille wasn't awful. I'm looking at the stats that Danny's put up on the screen there. 6 goals for Marseille is a pretty good return for a left back, isn't it? So he's an okay player. Again, I keep mentioning it about the other players that we spoke about previously. He's just not at the level that we need right now. It's as simple as that. And it boils down to trying to sort of sell the players that we don't need in the squad. Potentially, with the loan he's had at Marseille, there might be some suitors in Liga that have seen him play and might think they'll take him off our hands for an amount. But I think talking about Nuno Tavares, that sort of segues nicely into the polls that I've done, unless you've got anything else that you want to sort of speak about in terms of incomings and outgoings.
No, I think most of the players that we know, they're definitely going to leave. I'll just do it quickly. So we know Cedric's definitely going to leave because he didn't even make the plane to America. So that just shows that he's going to definitely leave. Lokonga will more than likely go on loan somewhere, hopefully somewhere like Burnley, because we'll see about that. I guess you still got a problem with either what you do with Balogun, Eddie, or Marquinhos. You know, these are the players that hopefully might get another loan. We'll see. Probably another touch on another podcast. But go ahead, Ellis. Let's talk about your poll that you did.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it for a little while, and thought it might be a bit of good content on the podcast. Sort of rate. Obviously, I think if you were going to rate purely our incomings this summer, this window, I think a lot of people would rate our window really highly. I think we've addressed areas that we need. We've mentioned there might be one area in terms of cover for Saka that we might need. But in terms of the actual players themselves, I think we're all quite happy with the players that we brought in. Obviously, some of us have had questions initially of Kai Havertz, but I think most of us sort of have warmed to the idea. But I personally think that in terms, if you boil it down to sort of under Arteta and Edu, we've had some hits, we've had some misses, and it was more about sort of signing since then and what people on Twitter felt would be a hit or a miss, and obviously to sort of gauge your opinion as well, Karl. So obviously Arteta signed midway through the 2019-2020 season. He got in a couple of loans, two of them being Cedric and Mari. Cedric, who we spoke a bit about already. And then they became permanent in the summer transfer window. So the permanent transfers in his first summer window. The first one that I've got here, I don't know if Danny brought it up. He's finding it. It's my pinned tweet, Dan. Always going. Ooh. Go to my pinned tweet. This is great, isn't it? So the first one is Willian, who was a free transfer initially from Chelsea. Quite a resounding miss there. I haven't closed this poll off. It's still going for 14 hours, whereas the rest are meant to only be 7 hours. 97.9% of people have voted him as a miss, and 2.1% of people, I don't know who's voted him, was a hit. What's your opinion on Willian, Karl?
William was awful. Sorry, I don't care what anyone says. He was absolutely awful. I remember people coming in saying, "Oh, he can play centre midfield. He's gonna be a dynamo. He's gonna be brilliant." He was poor. No matter what. I remember. Do you remember he went through a spread of games where he didn't do anything? Like I remember he got on his first game. It was away to Fulham, wasn't it? I'm sure it was, and he came on that game and he was like, "Oh, he was brilliant." It reminded me of,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it reminded me of Danny Ceballos. Do you remember Danny Ceballos' first game and for Arsenal? And everyone thought, "Oh my God, we signed out this genius. He's flipping brilliant. He had feet for days. Like he was brilliant." And then he didn't do fuck all. And that reminded me of William. Like he came in for the first game away to Fulham, absolutely brilliant, and then he didn't do anything. Like literally didn't do nothing. And then I think maybe at the end of the season, like he scored like this brilliant free kick. I can't remember who against, but he scored like a wicked free kick, and we was like, "Where the fuck's that been all season?" Like I don't get it. But yeah, William for me was a shocking signing.
I think there is a bit of a theme. So going through the sort of the players that have been more resounding misses, a couple of players who only signed in the January window just gone, and some of the young players I've also added, not just hit or miss, or I put too early to tell, but a lot of the resounding misses, there is a sort of theme. So Willian, obviously a big miss. I don't think many people can argue that wasn't a successful transfer, but he was a free transfer. So there is a theme with all the ones that have been misses haven't really, under Edu and Arteta, haven't really cost us a great deal. So the second one there, we spoke a bit about Cedric. He was a loan in January and then he was made permanent from Southampton in the summer. And I've got a 91% as a miss and a 9% as a hit. You got anything to add to that, Karl, or are you pretty much in agreement?
He was bad as well. He was not bad, not worth the money at all. He wasn't even free. He was 5 million, and I still think 5 million was too much. And that was it. That's it. Nothing else to say.
and he doesn't even have a chair to sit on anymore. And then the other loanee that was also made permanent that summer was Pablo Mari, who has since left us 83.2% miss and 16.8% hit. Now, Karl, I don't know if you saw the chat in our WhatsApp chat, but can you guess which one of the ABW members put Mari down as a hit?
It's only going to be one of two, and it's either going to be Josh or Chris.
Yeah, nail on the head. It was Josh. Chris didn't comment, but Josh put him down as a hit because apparently we recuperated most of the money we spent on him. but there we go.
If that makes him a hit, what about the money that we spent on wages? But all right.
Yeah.
I don't think he was terrible, but I didn't think he was bad either.
No, I think Josh's argument was the fact that it allowed Arteta to move more to a left-footed centre-back and get across his way of how they play in defence. And obviously when we got a better player in that position who we're coming on to now, which is Gabriel Magliais. I can't say his surname, so that's what it's going to be called. Quite a resounding hit there, 97.8% and 2.2% miss. I don't know who's voting these misses. That's harsh, isn't it?
It's definitely Josh, isn't it?
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, he's a hit. There's nothing more to say in it. Like, he's definitely a hit. He's done well. I think for the price we've got him in, he's formed a brilliant partnership with Saliba. So yeah.
Well, it's going to be difficult to say, but when we initially signed him, did you foresee him playing, or obviously we didn't know he was going to play with Saliba, but did you sort of foresee him sort of getting that position for himself and being the first choice left-sided centre-back? Or
initially when he came in, I didn't think he was going to be a starter. I knew we needed a left-footed centre-back, and those are really hard to find and rare. So when he came in and sort of started playing, everyone's like, "Oh, it's not too bad." Then he was doing well, but he's got the occasional wicket in him. He's got the occasional brain fart moment. And that's what scares people. The games that stick out are the Fulham game last season, where I don't know what he was doing with that pass back. The Man City game, I think the season before, we just had a brain fart moment and got like 2 yellow cards in, I don't know, about 10 minutes, wasn't it? Something stupid like that. He just has these moments where he just gets angry. He has a red mist about him, but he wouldn't be the player he is without that. So I don't want to take nothing away from him. No defender is perfect. If he could just cut out the silly mistakes that he does, he'd be a brilliant player.
I think he's a very emotional guy, and he is still sort of in that young bracket. Is he 24, 25?
Something on them lines.
Yeah, so he's still got, in terms of maturity-wise, like centre-backs out of most positions sort of mature a lot later in their career, don't they? And that sort of hot-headedness that you've highlighted, I imagine with maturity and with age, that will probably calm down a bit. But I certainly didn't foresee him becoming the player who's come. I think obviously we'd signed Saliba, I think the season before, hadn't we? Then loaned him out. And I was a bit sort of struck. I imagined that Saliba would be sort of coming into the role that he was going to play, but to see it now and the partnership they built is just amazing, really. And next up on my sort of thread, we're still in that same summer transfer window of 2020-21, and it's one of the 5 goalkeepers, Runarsson, 2 million from Dijon, 95.6% miss and a 4.4% hit. Anything to add to that, Karl, or is that pretty much?
No, let's just keep him moving.
We'll move on past him, shall we? And then Thomas Partey. We haven't really spoke much about Thomas Partey and where he potentially fits in this coming season or where he may go. But 50 million euros, I should say, from Atletico. I think that was his release clause at the time when we signed him, and it was triggered quite late in the window, wasn't it? He's a 92% hit and an 8% miss, which isn't really surprising when he has been fit and when he has played consistently. I think he's been one of our most important and one of our best players, and certainly was part of that run when it was good last season. He played a big part in that with Granit Xhaka as well in midfield. Not really on this topic, but if a big enough bid came from a Saudi Arabian club, would you consider selling him this summer? Sorry.
Yes, but with the caveat that we'd have to replace him. It's not a case of sell him and not replace. He'd have to be definitely replaced. By who? I don't know. Talks of Lavia. Could we get Caicedo? I don't know. But when the thing is with Partey, when he's good, he's good. He's absolutely brilliant.
He's fit.
Problem is when he's bad, and he gives the ball away. And he has some shocking games. I remember the game away to West Ham last season. He was not good. Like and it's always like I feel like he's not. I mean, last season I think was his most played season. He was fit quite often. But then he just has these moments again where he just drops off, and he just drops off for games and games. I remember us being in one of our chats, and we were saying that he has to be dropped. And at the beginning of the season, that was something that we would never say because he was playing so well. But he literally just dropped off like completely. And I don't know, I don't want to talk about it, but anything to do with his off field issues. But it's the drop off was magnanimous. Like, it was really weird. And this is why I think when you talk about whether if he does stay, he's not going to be a starter, that I think Declan Rice does come in. I mean, if you got someone the quality of Thomas Partey to come off the bench, that's brilliant for you, or to be your replacement. That's excellent. But I just don't feel that at the moment we can have that inconsistency with Thomas Partey. And that's not to say that Declan Rice is not going to be the same, because we don't know. We don't know how he's going to be. But I think the fact that I think this is almost the key theme here about drop-offs. I think the drop-off from when Thomas Partey is good to when he's bad is huge. And we can't afford to carry passengers. I mean, Man United, hear me. Man City are... when they have players that switching in, there's almost no drop off at all. And I think with Thomas Partey is huge. But I wouldn't mind keeping him. I don't mind keeping him at all. But if we do get a bid from a Saudi club, and I think I would love to be able to recoup what we bought him for. So if we sold him for 45 million, sell him for, I'll take a £5 million loss. But we have to replace him. I just think that is a key thing.
Yeah, I'd echo the same. I think, like you say, he's good enough backup. Although when he comes in cold, he's not as good as when he's got a run of games behind him. But like you say, if a 45 million bid comes in for him, it's not much of a loss, especially with someone who we've got when he has been fit and when he has been playing. We've got a decent amount of seasons out of him, haven't we? But that sort of rounds off his Arteta and Edu's first sort of summer window together. And by my calculations, that was 4 misses and 2 hits. But like I was saying, there is a theme. The misses, although you can't recoup the wages that they've been paid, a free transfer for Willian, a small payment for Cedric, a small payment for Mari, and Runarsson was 2 million as well. The 2 guys that have been resounding hits cost 26 and Partey 50. And like I've just spoke about, potentially we can recoup quite a lot of that back if we can sell them to Saudi Arabia. So even the ones that haven't been a hit on the pitch haven't been that much, haven't damaged us too much financially, which hasn't been the case previously. And then we move on to the big sort of window that he had in 2021-22. And we spoke a little bit about him. I was surprised by this one. Nuno Tavares. So his miss was 77.9%, but 22.1% of people said he was a hit, and there was 136 people voted on that one. Are you surprised by that?
Extremely. I thought I'm not a fan of Nuno Tavares. I think, you can talk about he's young, and he had some good moments, but he's had some really bad moments as well, and I think he's had more bad than he has done good. So, yeah, what's to say about him? I just don't think he's good enough to be at Arsenal, and hopefully we get some sort of money for him.
Hopefully. Next on the list, Albert Sambi-Lokonga, 17.5 million euros. Again, Karl, you made a comment on my euros. All these prices I have pinched from Transfermarkt, who do in euros, because I'm too lazy to convert that into pounds. So there we go. But he came from Anderlecht in the summer. 3.6% have put he was a hit. 61.6% has put a miss, and he's the first person that I've added a too early to say, and 34.8% of the people that voted. But it was a bit too early to say. What's your thoughts on Lokonga? We haven't really spoke about him yet.
Maybe it's too early to say. I think he went to Crystal Palace in the January. Obviously had a change of manager when they got rid of Vieira and Big Roy came in. I don't know if Roy really fancied him a lot. I would like to see him in a Premiership playing for a different club. I don't know if it's just fan talk or real talk that he might be going to Burnley. I don't know what it is. I think it's more fan talk, to be honest. I think it's more hopeful that he goes to Burnley because of their manager.
Linked up with company, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
he was.
And I think it's more. I think it's more fans.
Yeah. If I could, I'd sell him. If we could, I don't know about you. Again, it potentially could be a bit too early to say, like a third of the people have voted to say. But I think we're at the level now where if he's not integrated himself into the team now and we can get a fee for him, he's young. If we can recuperate some of that 17.5 back, then I'd be all for it. Because if we're going to raise our level, he's probably not going to get anywhere in the team, especially if we manage to sell Partey and bring in someone else. That's just another player that's going to be in his way. Next on the list, I've got Benjamin White, 58.5 million euros from Brighton. A resounding hit there at 96.4%. Anything to add to that, Karl? Do you agree?
Yeah, we agree. He's brilliant. Very good player.
At the time, quite a hefty transfer fee. Where at the time, can you remember if you were surprised by that? If you had any concerns about that?
Anytime you pay a lot of money for a player, especially a player that you didn't really, unless you really, really watch football, you didn't really see Ben White's game because kind of went under the radar. There was nobody at all in world football, in Arsenal Twitter sphere, talking about let's sign Ben White. Nobody was doing that at all, not one person. And I think when the link started talking about Ben White, then obviously people took a little bit of interest. And people started saying, "Oh, we could play multiple positions. It can play this. It can play that." Blah 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 blah. £50 million looks like a steal now, but at the time I wasn't impressed. But the prices in football are just mad anyway. Like the market is fucked, and it's been fucked for a long time, and it will be fucked for a very long time, and especially now that Saudis are involved now. So the price of players is just going to be astronomical. So what could be like a £50 million bargain flop could be a bargain at the time, and I think that's what Ben White is.
Yeah, and hopefully in a season or two time, we can look at Declan Rice and think, oh, that seemed like quite a lot of money at the time, but given what success he's had, we could hopefully be reflecting and saying that at the time, on reflection, it was more of a bargain. Again, I was probably similar to you, Karl. I thought we probably spent a bit too much money on a player that I didn't know much about. But the way he's performed and the way when he played at centre-back with that partnership with Gabriel, he did more than I expected, and this new role he found himself in this season, last season at right back, I think he's excelled there as well, and I think that almost looks like a steal now, especially when you consider his age and how long he could potentially be playing for the club. The next two I won't spend too much on because it's obvious. I don't think anyone, yourself included, is going to argue. And Ramsdale, 28 million euros from Sheffield United, obviously a hit, and Martin Odegaard, 35 million after his loan from Madrid, with probably the most resounding hit, with only 0.7 people saying it was a miss. I think that's obvious. You look at how, and Benjamin White included, how well they've integrated into the team. You can't really argue it. Next after that, we've got Tomiyasu, 18.6 million from Bologna. He's got just under 87%, 0.7%, sorry, hit and a 12.3% miss. Are you of the same opinion, Karl? And what's your thoughts on Tomiyasu? He's obviously got a poor injury record that has hampered probably his.
I think that's a problem. I think the fact that his injury record is not the best, and it's kind of hampered his progression in the Arsenal squad. I mean, we could have really used him last season, definitely. And
had we had him instead of Holding at centre back, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think
us and City wouldn't be as big as it was.
Yeah, I think things would have been a little bit different. I think there are certain games we probably would have picked up more points in, but that's by the by. It is what it is. I don't have it. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have any issues with that. I think he's a hit when he's fit. He's good. He's really, really good.
Agreed. And another one that I've added on, I actually forgot about this player and that he even existed until I saw a photo of him in the training camp the other day. Austin Trusty, 1.8 million from Colorado in the January window, 62.7%. So it's too early to say, and only 14.9. Put him as a miss and 22.4. Have you got any burning feelings on Austin Trusty that you want to say?
None at all.
No.
About him, to be honest, so nothing at all.
Again, I still think it fits the theme. Although he's not been voted as a miss here in these polls that I've done, he's only 1.8 million. So I'd imagine we could probably recuperate most of that, if not all of that, back. And even if we don't, it's not a massive loss. It's an American player at our club who may have potentially piqued a few more American fans' interests, and it's a relatively low risk price, isn't it? If it works out, great. If it doesn't, then it's only 1.8 million. Only 1.8 in footballing terms. It's only 1.8 million. If I could have 1.8 million to chuck away, it'd be lovely. But there you go. I work for the NHS, and then the last summer that we had before this one that we're currently in, our first signing was Marquinhos. 3.5 million euros from Sao Paulo, hit 16.2, miss 14.7, and 69.1%. So it's too early to say. He featured a bit in our Europa League games, and then he went on loan to Norwich, where he didn't really do much, from what I could hear from my friends that are Norwich fans. What's your opinion on Marquinhos? Agreed, it's too early to say? Or...
Yeah, no opinion really. Like I feel. We won't know. Maybe a few more seasons. Give him this season, depending on what Arteta does with him. Whether he keeps him, puts him out alone again, I don't know. So, yeah, I think it's too early to say.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got another goalkeeper, Matt Turner, 6.36 million euros from New England. 58. This actually surprised me. 58.1% people said he was a hit. 9.6% a miss. 32.4% said too early to say. Goalkeeper is a difficult one because he obviously got a first choice, and your second choice isn't going to get many games other than the rotation in the cup competitions. But would you agree? Would you say it was a hit, or are you?
Again, too early to say. He hasn't played enough games. He's only played a real handful of games. So yeah, I think too early to say.
Made some saves in the cup that he was in. First choice starter for America. I think he's I don't know if I'd go as far to say he's a hit, but I think he's a good enough backup for us. But I imagine he's probably going to look for first team football if he doesn't get much of it this season. And then Fabio Vieira, another young player, quite a hefty price tag though, 35 million euros from Porto, 59.6%, so too early to say, 30.5, I put him as a miss, and only 9.9. I've put him as a hit. He obviously scored that. Was it Bournemouth? He scored that long range sort of goal.
Yeah.
It might be Bournemouth or someone else. But since then, hasn't really flattered deceive. I think he's had a lot of criticism in his Europa League run-outs last season. Are you of the opinion it's too early to say, or are you do you think he might be a bit of a miss that the other 30%?
Yeah, the same. I think he needs to bulk up no matter what. I think I was hoping that over the summer he'd put on a little bit of muscle, a little bit of weight, and he hasn't. He's still really, really skinny. And I think too skinny for the Premier League. And I don't know if you can see, there's a picture on Twitter. I think there's a video where Arteta is berating him in training for not doing something. So yeah, I'm not too sure what's going to happen with him, and hopefully something does happen, because I think at the moment it's too early to say, but I'm not going to lie to you, it's looking like it might be a miss.
Yeah. And then two obvious ones that we don't need to spend too much time about, both from Manchester City. Gabriel Jesus, 52.2 million euros, obviously a hit, and Zinchenko, 35 million euros. Again, obviously a hit. Don't think we can really argue with that. I think Zinchenko pretty much changed the way we play, and Jesus just offered us something more from our forward line that we didn't have with Aubameyang and Lacazette prior. And that was the summer window, but we obviously had quite a busy sort of January window, probably considering where we were in the league last season. Trossard, 24 million euros from Brighton, 95.6% put a hit, missed 0.7, and again for the January guys, I've all put too early to say, but only 3.7 put that. Opinion on Trossard? Do you think a hit for the 24 million price tag?
Yeah. In football terms, £24 million is not that much, and I think for what he's given us, I think he kind of almost saved our season a little bit. I think we were overplaying our wide players, and I think even Martinelli was looking like he was just really, really tired, and I think he came in and like freshened it up a little bit, and also played different roles as well. So he helped out obviously up front as well, because Eddie was obviously not up to it, and when he came in and played that kind of false nine role, I think that helps as well until Jesus got back. So yeah, I think it's a hit. I agree.
I think obviously we were linked with Mudryk for the majority of that window, and it didn't happen. And I think that was quite a good pivot to get to Trossard, who had fallen out at Brighton. It was an option to get a much cheaper option than what we had been rumoured to have if we were ready to slap the rumoured price that Mudryk was down, to get Trossard, Premier League proven, similar position. And like you say, I think he contributed well. I think if we hadn't brought him in, our league table position would probably be the same. We'd still be second, but in terms of points behind Man City, it might have been a greater gap than what it was. And then the other two we've got both in January. Kiwar, 25 million from, I can't spell, I put Spezia. Spezia in the January window, 58.9% hit, missed 2.1, and 39% too early to say. And then Jorginho, who, again, another Chelsea signing. I've been scarred from Chelsea signings before, but he's come through as a 83% hit, a 3% miss, and only 14.1% too early to say. What's your opinion on Kiwar? I don't think we've seen enough of him, really. I think
far too early to say.
I think the hit of 58.9% is generous. I think there might be a bit of recency bias towards that as well. I think we should probably need to see a bit more of him. What about Jorginho? What's your thoughts on him?
Again, too early to say. I think we know what we're going to get from him. You know, his passing is A1. It really, really is. And that's what you want. He's the sort of player, like a deep line playmaker, where, you know, he just pops the ball around, doesn't do too much running, gets the ball, passes it left, right, to the middle. I think he does exactly what it says on the tin. You're not looking for him to tear up trees. And I think that's what you expect. Like, no one's looking for him to come in and, you know, even be a midfield general. But I think when he came in and he took over from Partey, because Partey was obviously not very good in that spell, I think he done a good job and done a decent job, and he, didn't tear up any trees. He scored a couple of good goals. I remember he scored the winner against Aston Villa. So yeah, he came in done well, but I still think I still think even Arteta would tell him, look, you're not going to play every game. You're not probably even going to play half the games. But when we need you, be that man, and you'll come in and you'll do a job for us. I think he knows that, and I think he's happy to do what he does. I'm sure he'll get games. He's definitely not going to be one of them ones where he sits on the bench and does nothing. And when you can rotate, when you're 3-0 up and you can take off a Declan Rice and bring on Jorginho, or give him some rest, that's brilliant. And when you're playing like a Sheffield United or a Luton or a Crystal Palace, and you can have someone like Jorginho come on, that's what you need. So yeah, it's good squad player.
Sorry, I've just been chuckling to myself. I was listening to what you were saying, but I've just seen what Danny's typed in his search bar. Is Jeff Arsenal real or a hologram?
I spoke to him. Maybe I shouldn't say, but I spoke to him the other day. Sorry, Danny. And he replied to me. So yeah, cheers, Jeff.
So yeah, that's all of them. Obviously, we could go on and talk about the free transfers here, but it's all going to be predictions, isn't it? But like I said, the themes that I've got from those polls is that we've actually had more hits than misses, other than that first season. But those misses we've had in that first summer, not season, sorry, were all relatively cheap. We didn't have much money to sort of throw around. They were gambles. They didn't pay off. But more often than not, if we spent quite a bit of money on someone, they've turned out to do all right. Obviously, there's a few players, the young guys, Fabio, Vieira, Samuel, Okonkwo. Time will tell whether they'll make it or not. But I think we probably couldn't have said that a few seasons ago. I think, again, I'm not going to go back on it. It's more effort enough as it was going through 3 seasons of transfers and putting polls out to work it out if they were a hit or miss with our fan base. Obviously, we are all Arsenal fans, and a majority of people voting on those polls are all going to be Arsenal fans, so there's probably some sort of bias there as well. But we've definitely improved. I think gone are the days of signing Mustafi, the other Gabriel. The list goes on of failed players or players that hadn't quite cut it. So the future is bright. It looks promising.
I'll tell you what also is a fail and what's also very, very bright is our new away kit. Now, I didn't want to talk about this, but we're going to have to. And people in the chat, if you got questions, put them up now because we're going to answer some questions soon. But that a new away kit is what's the word I want to use? When someone says it's special, and not special in a good way, as in like, oh, you're so special. Like, I don't know what you think, Ellis. I'm just going to give my honest opinions on it. I think it is absolutely atrocious. I think it is horrible. And I don't know why. Do you know what? My OCD is fucking playing up right now, because even the black lines don't match up. Like, if they matched up, like, I'd be fine, but none of them match up. I think it's... I don't know. Yes, you're right. There's only one person who is going to like that kit, and it is Chris. Because if you see some of the stuff that Chris wears, it's horrible. People listening on audio, you won't know what we're talking about. But yeah, Ellis, what do you think of that kit? Because for me, I just think it's absolutely atrocious.
It's bad, isn't it? I can't sugarcoat it. I do like quite out there designs. I'm not one of these people that are like, make the home kit red, make the away kit yellow and blue. It has to be yellow and blue, blah, 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 blah. Don't know why I'm talking in that voice. I don't mind that they mix it up. I do like the odd yellow kit, but I do like that they mix it up. I mean, this shirt that I'm wearing now, it's not yellow, and it's probably one of my favourite away shirts in a very long time. The only thing I will say is, apparently, I'm not quite old enough to remember, people didn't like the bruised banana kit when it first came out, and now look at everyone loves it. But I do find it difficult to see anyone that's going to like it. it's shit. But it's shit because it's quite different. Now, I don't know what's better, just being boring and shit or being loud and shit. But maybe I'm just a bit old. I'm in my 30s now, only just. Maybe the kids of the younger generation like a bright neon kit with black squiggly lines all over it. But
I just don't know if maybe Arsenal had. I don't know when Adidas. Surely Arsenal must get some sort of input, and surely Adidas must go to Arsenal and say, "Okay, these are some of the designs. This, and this. Like, what do you think?" I don't know if someone said, "Oh, that's the one I'm going to pick. That's the kit that I think is brilliant." I just can't. I look at that kit and I just don't know anything that's good about it. I just don't. I don't know why. I just think it's atrocious.
Did you see the launch video?
Yeah, I saw it, and they were trying hard.
The video was good, and their sort of reasoning behind the black squiggles, I get, but I just think if you take them black squiggly lines off, the neon's all right. Like I think it's a Dortmund kit from like in the 1990s was a bright neon color, like that, and it was all right. If you just take off the black squiggles, even that horrible light blue writing for the Fly Emirates and the Canon and the Adidas logo would look okay. I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me. Maybe I'll see it on a Champions League away night and think, "Oh, yeah."
And the thing is, for a fact, they're gonna try and promote it so much, and they're gonna wear it almost every away game, because they're gonna want people to like it. So just like sometimes there's no reason for a kit change, but they just change it because they want to sell the shirt. I think that's going to be one of them. I think they're just going to wear it just for the sake of wearing it. And
well, they say they put keepers in like bright coloured tops to make them subconsciously look bigger to the attacker trying to score. So maybe Fabio Vieira will look like he's bulked up a bit in that.
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
I think. Do you know what? It will still probably sell. I don't think it's going to sell as much because I just don't know anybody that's. There will be some people that really like it, but I don't like last season. Like we were talking about, the black kit that you're wearing and the pink kit. Those were probably the two greatest away kits I think I've ever seen. Like that pink kit, that will live with me forever because I love that kit. It was brilliant, and the black kit you're wearing is just. It's just brilliant. Like Adidas last season hit the nail on the head with everything they did. All our kits, every single one of our kits, the home and the two away kits were just absolutely brilliant. And then it's almost like they got a new head of marketing and just decided to change up.
Richard put out a tweet earlier, Cactus, and I completely agree with him. He's put that Adidas have pretty much been spot on since they've taken over manufacturing our kits. There hasn't been that many poor kits, certainly from memory. Like for me, I think at least one, mostly two kits I've liked from every Adidas iteration, sometimes even all three. Like last season, I'm not a fan of the kit for collar, but the kit looked fine. But the two away kits were lovely. When they first came in with just the basic red shirt with the V-neck and the old school yellow bruised banana. And I can't remember what the other one was. I think it was like a navy colour now. So it was bound to have a stink at one point. I think you do need to mix up a bit and push the boundaries. And the away kit certainly pushed the boundaries. Just didn't quite stick the landing. But it is what it is. I guess with the cost of living, having a £80 disgusting kit is a good thing for us. People won't be buying it.
I think a lot of people will think twice about buying that one. I think last season Adidas obviously outdid themselves, but I think this season people will be a bit we'll see. Anyway, want to wrap this up quickly and then crack on. So let's just talk quickly about the trip to America. So at the moment, Arsenal are in America, and I think it's tomorrow. So tomorrow, which will be our Thursday morning, Arsenal play the All-Stars, MLS All-Stars. I think the game's at 1 a.m. in the morning. So 1 a.m. Thursday morning, I believe. With friendlies, I'm always skeptical about friendlies. You know, I remember the season that we lost all three. Do you remember the season that I think we lost to like a Burnian in Scotland, and we lost to Rangers, or we drew or something like that? We wasn't very good. And then last season when we beat Chelsea 4-0 and beat all that, we were just brilliant. For me, it's mostly about fitness. That's exactly what it's about, trying to get fit, making sure that the players don't come away with injuries, that we obviously just sort out how relationships are formed, fitness, getting confidence up. So what for you are you looking for these games? I think we play MLS All-Stars, then we play Manchester United, and then we play Barcelona. Are you just looking for, you're not looking for results, are you? Or are you just looking for fitness and see kind of where people play and relationships that they form?
Yeah, I think for me, like, pre-season has never been anything that I paid particular attention to. I can't, like, when you were talking then about one where we lost to Burnley or lost most of our games, I genuinely, for the life of me, can't think what pre-season that was. And the only reason I know we had a good pre-season, last pre-season, is because you've just mentioned it, and a couple of podcasts that I've listened to over the last 3 weeks have mentioned how good our pre-season was last year in terms of preparing us for the season that's just gone by. So I don't really pay much attention to him. For me personally, again, this is a personal thing, it's more excitement to see the new signings and this summer season, pre-season, more so than probably anyone I can imagine. I am really excited just to see how Declan Rice fits into the team, how Kai Havertz fits into the team, and how Timber fits in the team. We've in terms of our trajectory, in terms of our progression as a team, we've progressed probably a step further than what I thought we did last season. So it's just exciting, really, to get those potential last pieces in the puzzle that help us win some silverware in the coming season. And it's more just exciting for that. Whether we lose it, or lose a game, or lose all of them, or draw them, or win all of them, doesn't really make a difference to me. Again, I think the most important, I'd imagine that it's probably the same with the coaches and Mikel Arteta, the most important thing is to get the players fit and ready for the season, and to try and sort of get tactics or different tactics and thought sort of impression there, if we are going to mix things up, if we are going to change things up, if we are going to introduce new ideas. What I will say, though, again, I know I've just said that I don't pay much attention to pre-season. There's a lot of big teams we're playing in pre-season, like the MLS All-Star game. Aren't they still in their season? So they're, regardless of their quality,
Peak fitness
fitness levels are going to be high. You've then got Manchester United and Barcelona, Monaco at the Emirates Cup, again, Liga, and then we've got Man City in the Community Shield. Like, that is some big teams. They're certainly going to be a test for us. It's not going to be like playing some Swedish team from the middle of nowhere. What's your thoughts on pre-season? How are you?
For me, it's about fitness. I mean, obviously, playing Man United, I want to beat them. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, because it's Manchester United. Of course, I want to win. Barcelona, I fucking hate that team, and I hope we smash them as well. Like, there's always going to be a little bit of rivalry. But do you know what? As long as the players come away and they're fit, we don't get any injuries, and every player gets some sort of some sort of run out, and that's everyone. I'm talking about even some of the fringe players get a kind of run out, or some sort of fitness. I mean, you got the likes of El Nene going, and those sort of players. And I do hope he gets a few minutes, because he's going to need it. I don't want him to be cold. Arteta's got I think being in America, he's got to play Balogun. Maybe not from the start, but Balogun will get game time. That's for sure. And he's going to want to impress over in America because, you know, that's his newfound country. And I just want everyone to come home safely. I don't want any injuries. I want, you know, team bonding as well. When you go to somewhere like that and, you know, you bond with your teammates because you're in and around them. And that's what I want. I want that people like Declan Rice to get proper integrated into the squad. I want Jurrien Timber to get integrated with the squad. Same with Kai Havertz as well. Like, I want them to form good relationships. And yeah, of course, like everyone's kind of missed watching Arsenal play. Those people who maybe found the stream for the Nuremberg game or paid for it. I'm sure it was like brilliant watching them. And I think watching, you know, the rivalry is going to come back. As soon as you play Man United, it's never a friendly. Let's be very honest. There's no such thing as a friendly against Manchester United in the slightest. And, you know, to both squads, if Arsenal lose, it's only a friend. It doesn't matter. If Arsenal win, oh, you lot are rubbish. Like, it's, of course it's going to happen. Like, and I wouldn't expect it any other way. But do you know what? As long as, like I said, the players come back fit and ready and hungry, I'll be extremely happy. And that's what kind of what I want. And then the Emirates Cup game, I think on the 2nd of August. I've got tickets, but I don't know if I can go now, so I might have to put it back on Ticket Exchange. Again, for me, Arsenal being back at the Emirates Stadium, a stadium full of people, everyone getting to see the new signings, everyone seeing Arsenal again, just brilliant. So I think that's brilliant. And then obviously it leads us into the key game against the Charity Shield against Man City, where, again, for me, that's just another friendly. It really is. Yes, it's a friendly with a trophy, but it's just another friendly. And that will kind of gauge, I think, where we are. No one's expecting us to wipe the floor of Man City at all, or even to win the game. But as long as we give Man City a decent game, I'd be happy.
That is a weird one, isn't it? The Community Shield. It's sort of like a halfway, not quite full-on friendly pre-season vibes. It is, and also not quite full-on proper competitive. If you win it, it's amazing, and certain managers will claim it as a trophy towards their trophy at the end of the season. But then conversely, if you lose it, you can sort of fall on that. Oh, it's only pre-season, but like you say, I think a lot of us will find it difficult not to use that as a barometer to how much that we have improved with the players that we've got and how closer we potentially could get to City next season. I think what I will say is, although I did mention about how hard the games were out in the American tour, I think it's amazing for the American fans. I'm in a podcast with a group of lads who I used to play FIFA with, and I actually got a chance to play FIFA, and quite a few of them from the States. So for them to get a chance to see Arsenal not just play some shit team from the middle of nowhere, to play Manchester United, to play Barcelona, to play the MLS All-Stars, that's just really good for them to see. And I've seen it all over Twitter with like Mike from Kieran's podcast, all the events they're setting up there. That's amazing. And again, it's I know football has become this sort of advertisement, sort of not quite just about the football, more about the product, but also good things do come out of that as well. You get people that don't live within a train journey away from the stadium that actually get to see the players that they bother to get up at the crack of dawn to watch. They get to see them in the flesh, and I think that's really good. And I think they're going to be in for some good games. Like you say, it is a friendly, but when you're playing Manchester United, it's difficult to sort of tear yourself away from that rivalry.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, like for me, I'm saying that I'm not prepared to wake up at 1:30 in the morning to watch the game when the American fans have been doing that all their lives. So I salute them completely, and that just shows the kind of lucky and the blessed state that we're in, that, you know, we get to watch our team that we love week in, week out, and our time zone. And yeah, I think it's great for the American fans. And I don't think this American All-Star game is going to be any sort of a pushover, because you're talking about the collective best 16 players in America coming together who are at the peak of their fitness because they're right in the middle of their season, and they're going to want to win because it's going to be a showcase for them. So they're definitely going to want to show out and, you know, prove something that American football, I'm not saying soccer because it's not, but American football is not just a quote unquote almost retirement league. You know, there are good players there. So I think it's come a little bit early for Messi. I don't think Messi can play or should play or will play. But you know, it's something. It's good quality, and let's hope that all the results that we get are brilliant and we don't lose any games. But I think more importantly, the fitness levels are right up there. Right, let's take some questions now. Ellis, do you want to read them? I have, if you go to comment or comments, I've starred them all. At the top, go to starred, and that's all the questions.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, I'll crack on, mate. So Darren Clifford, he's put, evening, fellas. Anyone else disapprove of the new away shirt? I mean, we've covered that, Karl.
Yes, we've covered it. It's his shit. We don't like it, but we're going to wear it. Let's be honest. So it is what it is.
What I will say is, I don't like it, but a part of me sort of like, will I just buy it just to leave it in like the wrapper, and then if it then becomes some sort of like weird cult kit, I then sell it on. But it's too much of a long game for me. Phil Macker, he's put a question. Is the squad complete, Karl?
If the transfer window closed tomorrow, we settle with the players that we have, would I be happy? Yes, I guess I would. I still think we need to sell players. We have to. I think if we're even contemplating to get any players in, we have to get players out. And there are so many players that we need to get out. Whether that be by cancelling contracts or selling them for nominal fees or shipping them abroad, we just don't know. So at the moment, and if you said you can have one more position to fill, I think for me, it would be a wide forward. I think we do need cover for Saka, because I do think the drop-off from Saka to Nelson is huge and vast. And I guess we could mix and match and maybe push... maybe we could push Jesus out there and then play one of Eddie or Balogun up front. This is an option. But yeah, I think if we could sign anyone else, it would be a wide forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're being like uber picky, I would like to sell Partey and get someone else in of a younger, higher ceiling player, and then obviously, like you say, cover for Saka. So we're close. We're not. If you're being uber picky, we're not quite there. Rocky 6709, another one. Can we talk about the away kit? No, we can't. We've talked too much about it already, Rocky. Sorry. And then our mate Stefan Selby. Does Odegaard give Rice the captain armband when subbed?
No, because I think Gabriel will probably be the next captain on the football pitch, and then you got Zinchenko. Will Declan Rice be in the leadership group? Yes, he will be, because he was a captain at West Ham. You don't turn it off. Those captain's qualities, you don't turn them off. They're always going to be there. So I don't think maybe in some games he may get it, but as long as you got Zinchenko, as long as you've got Gabriel on the pitch, I think those players will come before giving it to Declan Rice.
Yeah, I think Arsenal in previous years gone by has had a lot of criticism about where are the leaders on the pitch. There's no leaders in that team. Even in the season just gone by, I think Gary Neville was sitting there saying, is Martin Odegaard an actual leader? Yada, yada, yada. I think he is, but I also think, like you say, we've added someone else to that leadership group, and Declan Rice, like you say, you can't turn those qualities off. You could see from all the behind scenes how he holds himself in the conversation. apparently he's been quite vocal in the training sessions over in America as well. Whether he will be vice captain this season is another question entirely. I don't think it will be long before he's vice or even captain at some point, but I don't think it will happen straight away. Next question from Sai and Vesh. His question: have we really improved our midfield? We bought Rice / Havertz and sold / selling Xhaka and Partey.
Is Havertz an upgrade for Xhaka? That is a question. I think Xhaka brought a lot more to the team than just what on the on-field. I think the off-field, I think he was a leader. He was like, he had all the captain's qualities, and I think he helped the players. He's one of the players that wasn't scared to go to the press and tell them what they really think. He fronted up sometimes. I remember during the really, really bad run that we had, and when Aubameyang was our captain, and he never done any press interviews when we lost, ever. Like, he just didn't. When we won, he'd go in front of the camera, and then when we lost, he was nowhere to be seen. And you'd have maybe a Saka or Nelson, I remember, and Xhaka would be one of those players. And that's a real captain. The captain is someone who, win or lose, they're there. I do think we have improved our midfield, because I do think what Arteta wants, I think Havertz will bring more of it. So if you're talking about, if in the role at this time, and Granit Xhaka got 7 goals last season, do I think that Havertz can get more goals than 7? Yes, I do. In the same position, I do think he can. Is Declan Rice an upgrade on Thomas Partey? Time will tell. We don't know yet. I can't say yes or I can't say no. They will play the same role, but I think it will be a little bit different how they play it. So I guess time will tell. But they need to form a partnership. Xhaka and Partey had an absolutely brilliant partnership. They were wonderful together. And it's going to take time for Declan Rice and whoever he's going to be, his left 8 partner, to form a partnership, whoever that person is. And hopefully, during the tour, we'll find out who that person is and they can form a partnership. But ultimately, we won't know until the season starts whether we've actually improved our midfield, until it's settled, because Partey might stay, he might go. We might bring in, if Partey leaves and we bring in a Caicedo, then Rice, Havertz and Caicedo, would you say that's an improvement? Of course you would. Like, it definitely is. But again, we just don't know what's happening yet.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment there. Time will tell. I think in terms of Rice Partey, I think there was an improvement there just purely on Rice's availability alone compared to what Partey can offer, and purely in terms of Rice's ceiling. Rice could potentially get a lot better, and Partey potentially is going to drop off because he's at that point in his age and his career as well. What I would add to the sort of the Havertz and Xhaka thing is, before this season, no one really expected Xhaka to be in the positions he was in, to score the goals he has scored, to be pivotal in that. That's not something that we as fans really attribute to Xhaka. And the way Arteta turned his sort of his Arsenal career, I should say, specifically, turned that around from the point where he's chucked the armband on the floor and he's told the fans to fuck off and he thought he's out the door, to changing to the point that people are actually sad and worried that he's gone and actually saying, oh, is Havertz an improvement? If you'd said 2 seasons ago, is Havertz improvement on Xhaka, unequivocally, a lot of people would say certainly in the attacking department, yes. But the fact that we actually have to sort of question that and think about that shows how much Arteta helped improve Xhaka. So the same can be said of Kai Havertz and of Rice. How much potentially could he improve under his management, under the structure that is in place at Arsenal? How much can those two improve? They're both young men. They're both 24. their ceilings are so much higher than the guys that they're potentially replacing. So, yes, time will tell, but I'm optimistic about it, certainly.
No, I agree.
And then the final question by MJL2999. Am I the only one surprised how quickly Jorginho has become a very well-liked figure, both to the team and to the fans?
To the team, no, because I think Arsenal are a family. I genuinely think that this group of players, it's a happy dressing room, and we haven't had a happy dressing room for a long time. I think during even the end of the Wenger period, I don't think it was a happy dressing room. Throughout the Unai Emery period, it definitely wasn't a happy dressing room. We knew it definitely. A dressing room had such friction in it. Players who were just shitbags, you know, the Bundesliga bastards, as Danny called them. I just think that it wasn't a happy dressing room. I think Mikel Arteta, one of his first jobs was to harmonise that dressing room. You know, it took a while to get all the shit people out, you know, the Ozils, the Aubameyangs, and, you know, we still don't really know what happened between Aubameyang and Arteta, but it is what it is. But the Ozils and getting those sort of people out and getting the Bundesliga bastards out, I think that was a help to us. And now, like I said, every time you see Arsenal, and I know it could just be for the cameras, but they just look happy with each other. They all just look, you know, like they're just genuine friends. Like they look like they are actual friends. And I think Jorginho's an older statesman. He's not, you know, he doesn't want to be the loudest one, but you can tell he probably gives team talks as well. When somebody who is a bit more mature, who just knows what to do, experience, that is a key figure. And I think the fact that, you know, he's had some good games, he's had some bad games, but on the whole, he's done well. And I think with the fan base, if you compared him to someone like Willian, who, you know, you like you said, Ellis, like you were on the head, you get nightmares when you think about the Chelsea players that we've had in the past, David Luiz, and, you know, people like that who just haven't quite worked out. And again, I think the expectations for Jorginho was really low. Let's be honest. I think the bar was set so low, and he might have outdid our expectations. And because of that, that's why we like him. So, yeah, I just think it's got something to do with the dressing room. And I think now that everybody is really good friends, and it just seems like a really peaceful place to be, I think everyone just seems just great. And it doesn't seem like there's any person there that's causing a problem. Touch wood. I guess time will tell when people are not getting game time and they start knocking on Arteta's door, and we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah. Am I surprised? Yeah. I'd probably say I am surprised at how quickly he sort of slotted into this team. Again, like you say, maybe I'm just scarred from the previous Chelsea players that we brought in. But I probably shouldn't be surprised. From the recruitment of Arteta and Eddie, they seem that they target these people with the right attitudes. Arteta's very first interview was all about players being on the ship, having the right mentality. If they're not on the ship, then they go. The non-negotiables, and he clearly targets those players. Obviously, the players from a tactical point of view, a physical point of view, have to fit that mould. But I think also from a mentality point of view, he picks people who will gel together, and he has helped create a squad that's like a family. The club, not just a squad. Like, again, when you watch these, and I keep going back to it because I do find it really interesting. When Declan Rice was behind the scenes, when Jurrien Timber was behind the scenes, they go and they greet Win the dog, and you've seen videos of Gabriel Martinelli's high-pitched squeal when he sees Win the dog, and the fact that when these guys are going around, they're being introduced to Jack Wilshere and Kai Saka and the dinner lady and everyone else. That it's a proper tight-knit family, and that's what they've created there. So I probably shouldn't be surprised. I think it's just because when I looked at Jorginho, I just looked at him being a disgusting Chelsea player, when actually when he's on our team, he ain't too bad. But yeah, no, that's a good question.
Yeah, it was good. I think now before we wrap up, now I've got you here. I just want ask you a quick prediction on where we will end up this season, on how we will end up this season. So the 4 competitions that we're in, I'm going to ask you where do you think we'll end up. So first of all, I will go the cup. So FA Cup. I'm obviously depending on who we draw, but where would you like us to get to at least?
Where would I like it? I'm going to win all of it. Of course, that's what I'd like. Oh God, you're not going to remember these, are you? And bring them up at the end of next season?
Of course not.
It's a bit too early for sort of prediction, isn't it, Christ?
Obviously, when we lose to Nottingham Forest away in the 3rd round.
I've got a feeling we won't do too good in the FA Cup and the League Cup. I'd like to think we'd get to the semi-finals, but I can see us getting knocked out before then. Are they changing the semi-finals at Wembley, or is that staying? Did I make that up?
What, the FA Cup?
Yeah.
No, yeah, they need to pay for that stadium, so yeah, the semi-finals will still be at Wembley.
Yeah, I'd like to think we'd get to the semi-finals and have a day out at Wembley, but I can see us getting, again, like I say, it all depends on the draw. But I generally do think a lot of people think last season was or rival fans and certain media outlets think last season was a fluke position-wise. I think our focus next season is going to be on winning the Premier League, or at least putting in a better show towards the end of the season than we did this season, and getting further in the Champions League. So I don't think we'll do too well in the FA Cup. So I think we'll rotate heavily and potentially get knocked out around the quarterfinals in the FA Cup.
Okay. Champions League.
Champions League, I think we'll get out of our group stage.
Or what would you be happy with in the Champions League? Obviously,
where I'd be happy. I'd be disappointed if we didn't get out of the group stage. Looking at who we can draw, where our coefficient is, and what group, what pot, sorry, not what group will be in, what pots we'll be in, I'd be disappointed if we didn't at least finish second in our group, because I think the hardest team we can draw is the ones that are pot on us, like Barcelona and other teams like that. Obviously, we can't draw City because they're in our league. So I'd be disappointed if we didn't get out the group stage. I'd be happy if we got into the quarter-finals, and I think we might not get that far. I just think it's difficult, isn't it? Because Arteta hasn't had a great record in the Europa League when it's got to the knockouts. Pardon me. But then he has rotated heavily because it's not the competition of the Champions League. I feel like he would take the Champions League serious.
I think so as well. I've got a feeling he's going to take it seriously. I have a feeling he's going to take it seriously. I would be happy with our first outing in the Champions League for 8 years, is it? I would be happy for quarters. I think I'd be very happy if we got to the quarterfinals. And I think it's doable. I do. I just feel like, I don't know why, I feel like the Champions League is, this season is got some really not great teams. And obviously, you know, taking out City and Real Madrid, because they're just obviously masterclasses. I think if you look at, I'm not saying this shit, let me make this clear, Bayern Munich, the fact that they, you know, for how many 12 seasons in a row, they've won their Bundesliga, and they got pushed to the limit last season to the league on the final, but I don't want on the final day to win it. So PSG, this is a shit show. The Italian teams, do I think that Arsenal will lose to any Italian teams? Italian teams know how to win.
Italian teams in Europe last season, there was one in every single final of the European Cup.
They knew how, Italian teams know how to win. So Napoli, depending on whether they keep their star man up front, they're brilliant. But people like Inter, do I think we'll beat Inter? Yeah, I think we would. Do I think we'll beat AC Milan? Possibly, yeah. And then you think, are there any other clubs? I'm not saying that Arsenal were brilliant, and And Arsenal been at the Champions League a long time. And I think it's very easy for us as fans to be like, oh, yeah, we got better players. We'll beat them. I think it takes special. The Champions League is a different kettle of fish. That's why every team wants to be in it. And, you know, teams play their heart and soul out for that league. And there's no easy games. I don't care what anybody says. There are no easy games in the Champions League. I mean, just look at Real Madrid. I think it was it last season before when they lost to Sheriff, both home and away. Says it all. So, yeah. And obviously
it's
the league.
last season, isn't it? In this format as well. So it'd be good to get as far as we can because it then
yes,
that weird league format, doesn't it?
Yeah, it comes out we play everyone and then the top 8 teams go through and then you need to be from 9th to some. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll discuss that later on in the season. Quickly, the league, Ellis. Where do you think we're going to end up in the league this season?
Well, Father Wenger said we're going to win it. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm negative in terms of my person, but I'm not very optimistic. But having said that, and it's going to kill me to say it, I genuinely think we've got a very strong chance of winning the league this season. We've improved, I think, in terms of Man City's motivation. They've just won the treble. Like, there isn't much more to win. They've lost Gundogan, potentially going to lose Mahrez, potentially Bernardo Silva. Obviously, they are a massive machine. They're also going to have that Club World Cup midway through their season because they won the Champions League, so that might hamper some fitness traits. And I genuinely think we're going to push them just as far. There's so far from in terms of incomings for other clubs. There's no other clubs that particularly feel like they've strengthened massively. I think people have strengthened. Liverpool have obviously strengthened their midfield, but they could lose Henderson. Man United look like they're going to get that Onana, who's probably going to be better suited to Ten Hag's way of playing than De Gea was. Chelsea have obviously got lots of players, and who knows if Pochettino can get some of those young players that, let's be honest, those young players are good. They're just in a shit system. They were bought for a reason. Whether Pochettino can get the best out of them, who knows? Spurs don't know anything about Postecoglou, the guy from their new manager. Can't say his name. Potentially could use Kane. That would be massive if they lose Kane to Bayern Munich.
Oh, I need them to. Do you know
that
what
would
is?
definitely be weaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be happy with a. After saying all that, to say I'll be happy with a second place finish sounds a bit. What's the word? I don't know. Doesn't sound great if I say I'll be happy with second, but Man City are ridiculous. So of course I'd be happy with second. I'd be over the moon if we win it, and I do think we can win it. What about you?
I think we can win it. Will we win it? No. I think Man City are just juggernaut, and I think we need other teams to take some points off them. Will Liverpool be as bad as they were last season? Potentially no. I think Chelsea, I do honestly think Chelsea will be much better than they were. I think their manager will get them playing because, like you said, those players are not shit. They just were managed by not very good people. And yeah, I think that the fact that they've got no distraction of European football, whether that's a hindrance or not, I don't know. Because whereas, Arsenal will be in elite fitness every single week, it'd be very stop-start for Chelsea. But then again, you can rest your players more. So it swings and roundabouts how you picture that. But yeah, I think a lot as well, we're forgetting about teams like Newcastle. I think Newcastle, I don't think they've stopped their spending at all because I saw an interview with their manager and he was saying, I need more players. And they're going to want to buy more players. Of course they are. So I think next season will be very interesting.
Football, and I think they will be found out a bit more this season. again, like you say, it depends on who they bring in, though, doesn't it? They bring in some more
Yeah,
quality.
of course. So we'll see. But it's exciting. I don't think I've ever been as excited for a season like this in a very long time. I can't believe that, we've got the players that we've got at the moment. Depending on the outgoings, we'll see. But I'm actually really, really excited for this season, and hopefully we do really, really good things. And hopefully, Ellis, this isn't a fly-by-night visit. We do get to see you a little bit more next season. Like, it'll be very, very good.
Every other Tuesday night, my partner works a night shift, so every other Tuesday night I should be free. Again, Champions League next season, so that's not quite helpful. But I've moved in now. The house is a bit more in a better position. My child normally goes to sleep at about 7:30, so hopefully I'll be able to pod a bit more this coming season.
Yes, we'll see. That'd be great, Ellis. Right. Thank you to everybody in the chat that's contributed today. Much appreciated. Wherever you're listening to this on, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Give us a like on Spotify and Apple podcasts. Anywhere you listen to, just give us a like. It helps us immensely. This has been a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. Thank you very much, Ellis.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, as always, and I hope I didn't bore too many people with the polls that I put up, but I thought it was interesting.
No, they were great.
Did or not, I don't know.
No, they're fine. Danny's in the background somewhere. All you have to do is push some buttons and he's still got some of that wrong. So, we are where we are. So thank you, everyone. Take care. And as always, no matter what, #fuck Ellis.
As soon as I scored that goal, I was fucking livid. Get down, dog. Splendid business.
He nearly caught the bloody thing. What are you talking about?
So I was just eating a full quiche. Well, you don't often see them at Ibs, so when you see them in the supermarket, they need to be swagged, microwaved immediately, and get the brown sauce on and bosh, Bob's your uncle.
Never in doubt.